Great. Thank you, John. And it's always great to be back to talk to your subscribers and give an update. This presentation, it's the full update it's the full story about Chakana Copper. I do go through the whole story about the company, our project, our location, a little bit of background about Peru, and some information on the copper market. And then I'll get into the rest of the story, the technical aspects of the project and our exploration. And I'll focus mainly on the more recent drill results from our Phase 3B program that we started last August, and take you through the new discoveries at Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancarama. And then I'll bring it all together at the end. I wanted to put the full presentation together because I know there's some new investors out there or people interested in the story that may not have heard the story before. So apologies if this is a little bit repetitive for some of you, but it's maybe a good chance to review where we've come from since the start and tell the full story. Just a disclaimer there on forward-looking statements. I'll make a number of those throughout the presentation. So, whenever I talk about junior companies and whenever I look at junior companies, to me, there's really 3 or 4 key things that you really have to look for. And the first and foremost, I guess, is the strength of the management team and who they are, what their track record is, and how they've come together to put the opportunity of the company in front of you as an investment opportunity. And that includes the technical aspects, but it also includes the corporate management aspects and the ability to take a raw prospect and advance it quickly through the discovery stage and create value for the shareholders that way. Capital structure is really critical. We're happy to talk about the fact that we have Gold Fields, the 7th largest gold producer in the world, as a significant shareholder of Chakana Copper. They have about a 16.8 equity interest in Chakana, and they're very, very excited about the work that we're doing and the results that we've gotten to date, including the most recent results at Huancarama. So we really are fortunate to have a great supportive partner like Gold Fields on the share register. But then it really comes down to location, and that is so critical in mining. You really need to be in a place where mining is a part of the culture, where it's supported, where it adds, it's valued as a contributor to the local economy, to creating jobs and enhancing the communities that it works around. And Peru is that country. It has a very, very long history of mining in Peru. It's a very significant part of Peru's economy, and it receives a lot of attention and a lot of support from the government. So that's a great, Peru is really a great place to be. And then, of course, you have to have a good asset, and there's lots of different deposit styles out there. One of our strategies as a company has been to focus on a deposit style that's really not that well known in the industry. These are tourmaline breccia pipes. Our tourmaline breccia pipes at Soledad have very high gold grades. It's not all that common to see high gold grades. They're commonly mineralized with copper and molybdenum, or copper and silver, maybe with a little bit of gold, but we've actually seen some really spectacular gold grades at Soledad. And part of the reason that we're focusing on this deposit type is our management team has expertise in tourmaline breccia pipes, and we saw the opportunity to go in to this project and capitalize on that knowledge and bring our experience and expertise to the table and recognize something in this project that had not been recognized before. I'll talk a lot about our current drill program. It's a fully funded 15,000 meter drill program. We've got about 9,000 meters, just under 9,000 meters left to go in that program. That's enough meters to do infill drilling on the 3 new discoveries. We can talk about all 3 discoveries now: Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancarama, and lead to an initial resource on the project. There's never been a resource put out on Soledad, so this is a very exciting year for us to get that initial resource out. And then I'm going to talk a lot about upside potential, because upside potential is really where the huge jump in value creation happens. If you can go out and demonstrate that you've got something that's material, and then double that or triple that with really aggressive exploration, then you can really you can create huge value for your shareholders. Just a quick slide on our share structure. You can see the pie chart on the left shows kind of the breakdown of the different categories of our shareholders. Goldfields, again, right in there, right under 17%. Management and insiders own a similar amount, about 18%. So we're closely aligned with the interests of the shareholders. We have a very healthy institutional shareholding that's shown there, and then a good mix between high net worth and retail investors. So we've got a really solid share structure. Our outstanding shares are about 93 million, just over 93 million. Based on yesterday's close price, we've got a market cap of about 50 million Canadian, and our cash on hand is right at about 3.4 million Canadian. So I mentioned the management team, and what I'm showing, this picture shows 3 of the 5 board members. All 3 of the people there were geologists, or exploration geologists of varying vintages. And the benefit of having a team like this is all of the variety of experience that each of us brings to the table. Doug Kerwin's our chairman. Doug really is a legendary discovery. He's made multiple discoveries in his career. He is a world-recognized expert in these tourmaline breccia pipes, and it was really Doug's influence that really got us focused on the fact that the breccia pipes at Soledad should be our focus, and that's because they're high grade. They're numerous breccia pipes. We've got 23 confirmed so far, and we know that there's going to be a lot more because we've already found a blind one in our drilling. And they're vertically extensive. The geometries are excellent for mining, and that's really the initial prize there. The previous explorers at Soledad had focused on porphyry target sitting beneath that they believed sits beneath the breccia pipes. And it's a controversial subject as to whether or not there's porphyry there or not, but it's not our focus. Our focus now is on the tourmaline breccia pipes, as it should be, because the economic potential of the breccia pipes could be huge. John Black is also a director of the company. John is a very accomplished economic geologist himself, multiple discoveries under his belt. John's also a CEO currently of Regulus and Aldebaran Resources, 2 different junior companies working in South America. And John was previously the CEO of Antares that made the Hakira discovery with his team that's still working with him, Kevin Heather and several others. And they divested that asset to First Quantum for $650 million. So John's actually been through that process of targeting, discovery, drill out, advancement towards, feasibility study, activities, and then divesting that asset. And that's really our strategy. Our strategy was to pull all of our expertise, find the one project out there, the needle in the haystack, that could turn into a discovery, advance it, put all our energy, raise our money, put it into the ground on this asset, and then divest it. Being a project generator was not a part of our strategy. We don't we're not looking to have a portfolio of multiple projects over multiple jurisdictions. It's very hard to stay focused in a situation like that. It's very hard to manage the cash flow into the ground on your projects, and so that's the strategy that we're pursuing, and we think that's the best strategy for our shareholders. Peru, I've already kind of introduced Peru and why we like it so much. The map on the right shows the different mineral belts. There are multiple different mineral belts in Peru that host different styles of deposits, and several world-class deposits in Peru. The map on the right, there are so many deposits and mines in Peru. If you show them all, you're going to just clutter the map where you can hardly see the detail. This is a map that's just showing the mineral deposits that are of the same age as the system that we're working in Soledad. It's the Miocene mineral belt. You can see multiple deposits. Some are highlighted and named there, but there are many more. But some really giants sitting in there. There's the Las Bambas copper system in the south and Antipacay. In the central part, there's Antamina. Antamina is only 65 kilometers to the east of our project. It's the biggest mine in Peru. And then Purina, Barrick's Purina gold mine, definitely a world-class gold producer, is just 35 kilometers to the north and very similar geology to what we have at Soledad. And then there are the big mega deposits in northern Peru. So a great place to be. Within Peru, we're in the Ancash province, and in my opinion, it's really the premier place to be, mainly because of Antamina and Purina. Those mines really put Ancash on the map in a big way. The infrastructure is second to none. There's grid power. There's a phenomenal road network. There's support communities. The town of Huaraz is a mine support hub for that region, and we enjoy many of the benefits of that infrastructure just by virtue of being proximal to those two mega mines. The other part about Peru is that it's a growing country in terms of production. It's now second largest copper producer in the world. It's the largest gold producer in Latin America, and it also attracts a significant amount of foreign investment into the mining industry in Peru. It's the fifth largest destination for foreign investment in mining, behind really the big four, the U.S., Canada, Australia, and Chile. So that's a great place to be. It's a very prestigious group of countries to be in from a mining investment standpoint. And mining provides a very significant part of Peru's economy. It's about anywhere from 13 to 16% of the GDP. Very significant part of the economy, and I can tell you it was a really critical part of restarting the economy after the onset of the pandemic. It was the one industry that they believe could help recreate economic growth in the country after it had shut down after COVID. And I'll talk a little bit about more of that in a bit. But the support that you get in Peru is really excellent in terms of the framework that they have, the government framework, the regulatory framework, and I think that's a real bonus for junior companies working in the country. Copper, when we formed the company, we were focused on copper. We knew these terminally breccia pipes were often copper rich. And we love the fundamental economic, the macro story around copper. It's a very, very strong story. We know that there's been underinvestment in copper exploration for decades, and that's led to really a very sparsely populated pipeline, if you will, to fill the gap that's being created by mines going out of production or mines being long in their mine life and their grade dropping. We also see lots of disruptions in the global mining industry today, and those disruptions can be anything from a pandemic to labor disputes to natural disasters, other types of things. So there is a real opportunity here for good copper projects to advance through this window of opportunity, if you will, where the copper price is going to be strong. We've already seen it move recently, and we expect that it's going to continue to move. And that's before you even start thinking about things like clean energy, electrification, electric vehicles. All of that is just going to add greater demand to an already very solid future for copper. On top of that, of course, then we have precious metals at Soledad, very high gold and silver. In fact, if you look at where we've done the most drilling, like on Breccia 1, about 70% of the value in the current drilling that we've done at Breccia 1, which is over 6 kilometers of mineralized breccia and two adjacent breccia pipes, about 70% of that value sits in the gold and silver, and 30% sits in copper, even though the copper grade is averaging in those weighted average in those drill intercepts at about 1%. So very high grade copper, but also coming with some exceptional grades for precious metals. Like everyone, we had to deal with COVID-19. COVID was particularly hard and is still being very difficult in Peru to manage. And the government, initially came down with a very strong shutdown in the country. International flights were canceled. Mandatory quarantine was implemented, and we had to abide by that. Everyone did, and but the one thing that we wanted to accomplish during COVID was to get a really critical permit for us, and we were able to continue working with the government. That they quickly realized that those types of activities could continue, and they got their people set up so that they could continue working on things like permitting. And we got a really important critical permit that allows us to drill in this central area where the 3 new discoveries have been reported over the last 6 months. So that was a really critical step for us to get that permit. And then they allowed mining to restart. As I mentioned, it was part of their strategy to restart the economy in Peru, and we were included in that. So we were able to start drilling August 15th in this phase 3B program, as we call it, a 15,000 meter program that, as I mentioned, is fully funded. So the map on the right shows our land position. It's about 3,000 hectares, and we've tripled the land position since we started. And the agreements that have come together to create this 3,000 hectare are shown on the land map on the right in different colors. We started with the northernmost land position through an agreement with Condor Resources in the blue. We then acquired the central part and a part to the southwest shown in pink. And then we did a deal with Barrick where we have an option to earn 100%. All of these agreements allow a pathway to achieve 100% ownership in the area shown by the black outline. All the symbols on that map represent the breccia pipes in circles, and the various colors just represent the ones we've drilled and what phase they were drilled in. The ones that are red have not seen any drilling yet, so that's where a lot of the upside potential exists. Or just the sheer number of breccia pipes on the property is really impressive, and we think it's much higher than is seen at surface, because these breccia pipes are only exposed by erosion. They did not erupt at surface. It's the erosion of the land surface exposing the breccia pipes that show us the ones that are obvious, the ones that are sticking out of the ground. But we also know that if erosion were to continue, we'd see even more breccia pipes, because we found a blind breccia pipe, as I mentioned already, in our drilling. So lots of upside potential. And the area that we're drilling now is shown in the pink area in the middle, where Paloma East, Paloma West, and the Huancarama breccia complex are shown there. I mentioned the overall grade of breccia 1. That's where we've done the most drilling. It's not a resource grade, but it's based on 52 drill holes, so it's a pretty solid number, weighted average. And you can see there that the copper equivalent is just below 3%, and the gold equivalent's right at about 4.4 grams per ton. I'll talk about the upside potential, and that's really where the excitement about what Soledad can be comes from. There's multiple different technical pathways for the upside potential to be realized. We have multiple pipes, 23 minimum. We've already found those. We've got blind pipes. The vertical extent, we've drilled breccia down 800 meters below surface. These breccia bodies are vertically extensive. We don't know how deep they are yet, because we've never seen the bottom of a breccia pipe. Every breccia pipe we've drilled so far is open at depth. In Chile, the breccia pipes like this, tourmaline breccia pipes, have been known to occur over a vertical extent of 2 kilometers. So there's quite considerable upside potential just in taking a known discovery like breccia 1, breccia 5, breccia 6, breccia 7, Huancarama, Paloma East, Paloma West. We're now at 7 mineralized breccia pipe discoveries since we started, and they're all open at depth, and we don't know how deep they're going to go. So there's huge potential just in there. We see a really interesting feature called late copper upgrading or late copper replacement. I've got a couple of slides to talk about that. It's really impressive. It leads to some very, very high grades, and there's considerable upside in that. There is the possibility of a mineralized intrusion at depth. It's a controversial issue. It's a controversial topic. It's debated by our team internally in Chakana, opinion, and we've had a number of experts weigh in and provide their opinion on it. It's not our focus. It's not the topic right now. If we put together all of our data sets, and we've got extensive data sets, geophysical data sets, surface mapping, alteration mapping, Landsat alteration studies, geochemistry, and a number of different approaches that have been applied. We put all that together in a very robust three-dimensional targeting data set. We've come up with 92 targets on the property, and that's, that needs to be updated. I'm sure we'll be well over 100 once we do that. So it's a very impressive deposit, if you will. It's almost a district scale. It's very, it's considerable size. The tourmaline breccia pipes have a footprint of about 4 kilometers north-south and 3 kilometers east-west. So it's a very considerable size of what I call the fairway, where we can go out and make new discoveries. The first 3 phases of drilling, 1, 2, and the first part of 3, focused on several breccia pipes in the north part, just in that northern blue part of the map that I showed. And you can see some of the different breccia pipes here. I mentioned there's 4 discoveries were made in that northern part of the property, and you can see some of the grades there. Gold commonly in the 1 to 2 or 3 up to 4 gram over significant mineralized intervals. Copper often, in the 0.5 to 1%, even higher than that. Well, I think we've hit maximum copper grades of 12%. We've hit 42 grams gold. We've hit over 5 kilograms of silver in our drilling. So really impressive grade profile. Some of the pipes are more silver rich. You can see breccia 6 and breccia 7 have some very high silver numbers there, whereas others are more copper mineralized or more gold mineralized. And oftentimes we see all 3 metals moving together. I mentioned that one of the aspects of the breccia pipes that are vertically extensive, we've also proven in our drilling on multiple breccia pipes now that the breccia pipes get bigger at depth. They're actually kind of conical shaped, or we use the analogy of an inverted carrot in terms of describing the geometry. The breccia pipes come to a point, and we've seen breccia pipes, like the blind breccia pipe we made, still has 125 meters of rock above it that's not brecciated. So that's a preserved breccia pipe that's in the ground. We've also have breccia pipes that are just barely sticking out of the ground, and we know that because the rock that's exposed at surface is the altered wall rock around the breccia pipe with small windows into the breccia pipe itself. So we have a pretty good feeling of where we're at in terms of the depth of erosion and the exposure of these breccia pipes. And the breccia pipes are getting bigger at depth, and that's a function of how they form. And I won't get into the technical details here on that, but it's a fairly consistent feature that we've seen with these breccia pipes, and it's huge for the upside potential, because if your host rock that's hosting the mineralization is getting broader or bigger at depth, and that means your tons are going up, and that's going to help. That's going to add considerable resources in the future as you continue to go at depth. The 2 pictures on the right, 2 examples of some very high grade mineralization. These are both out of breccia. Yeah, these are both from breccia 1. Cemented breccia, and breccia just is a term that means a broken rock. It's a rock that's made up of fragments of other rocks, and you can see those fragments in these 2 core examples. The space between the fragments is called the matrix, and oftentimes we see the matrix in these tourmaline breccias is cemented with sulfide. So your grade in copper, gold, and silver is sitting in those sulfide minerals that are sitting in the matrix. The other style of mineralization is this very impressive copper replacement. This late stage copper leads to some very high copper grades, and oftentimes accompanied with high silver and high gold as well. So we see both of these styles of mineralization on a very frequent basis. This is a Google Earth image just looking at the north half of the property. We're not showing the south half, which is equally large in terms of its extent. Multiple breccia pipes on the south side that we're not seeing in this view. But you can see the way the breccia pipes on the north side of the project sit on the hill. It's a hill that goes about 500 to 600 meters up in elevation, which is a perfect scenario for being able to drive tunnels into the edge of the hillside till you intersect a breccia pipe. You can continue going beyond that breccia pipe to the next breccia pipe. Because they're closely spaced, the breccia pipes are anywhere from 40 meters apart to 250 meters apart. So from a mining standpoint, that's a really excellent distribution of breccias in the hillside that's easily accessible by low cost development in developing tunnels or adits into access. So we really like, and the mining engineers we've brought to the project and have studied the project love the way the breccia pipes sit in the hillside. It brings a lot of optionality to how you might develop the project. Notice that on the right side of that image, there's a lead zinc silver mine. This is an active operating mine operated by Lincuna. We're in a very active mining district. There's 4 operating mines. There's 2 processing plants, sulfide concentrate processing plants. You can see a water reservoir in the upper right part of that image. Water is plentiful in this part of the Cordillera Negra. There's grid power. There's a road network, a public accessible road network to give access to the projects in this part of Peru. So the infrastructure is really, really outstanding in this part of Peru. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the results. Let me just go back to this slide. The Phase 3B program is focusing on the green circles here. PE is Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancarama, and we've released 28 drill holes from the drilling so far in covering these 3. We've announced the discoveries at Paloma East and West, and just yesterday we announced a new discovery at Huancarama. So, as John mentioned, we're batting 1,000. All 3 of our targets have turned into new discoveries to go with the 4 discoveries that we have up further up the hill, and then there's numerous targets that aren't even shown on this image here that are yet to be tested. So you can see why we're so excited about the upside potential of Soledad, because we've only scratched the surface yet. Every breccia pipe we've drilled is still open at depth, so we know we can expand resources in the future by underground drilling. And then we have all of these other targets that are coming to surface or near surface that also need to be tested. So we put out several news releases on the Paloma target area. We started drilling at Paloma East and immediately recognized that it was a very small breccia at surface. It only had a diameter of 25 meters. But as we went down 150 meters, it went to a 50-meter diameter, so from 25 to 50. And when you double the diameter of a cylinder, you quadruple the volume of that cylinder. So these changes in diameter are very significant on a volume standpoint. And so you went down another 100 meters, the diameter of that breccia pipe became 100 meters. So it's really considerable tonnage potential as we go at depth. We then moved over to Paloma West. It's a narrower, kind of a neck-like breccia body. We think it ultimately will connect up to Paloma East, because the Paloma East breccia is trending right beneath it. Both of those breccias sit on the edge of a very strong conductor, a geophysical feature that's shown on the map on the left. And you can see that the size of that, it's about 200 meters across from breccia to breccia, 150 to 200 meters. So quite considerable expanse, long runs of mineralization. You can see there 226 meters of 0.34 gold, 0.36 copper, and 17 grams silver. Very impressive long runs of mineralization. When we went over to Paloma West, we were seeing some very, very high grades, some of the highest grades we've ever seen on the property. And you can see an intercept there, 42 meters of 1.8 grams gold, 2.15% copper, and 84 grams silver. Really, really spectacular examples of mineralization. The table here is similar to the one before, but now showing the 3 new discoveries from the Phase 3B program that was started last August. And again, the grades are very impressive. Copper grades oftentimes at 1% or above. Paloma West, exceptional grades there. You can see, some of the grades running there from 2% to up to 10%. And then Huancarama has come in extremely strong with, 100 meter plus intercepts, connecting a very large breccia system, or confirming a very large breccia system with a footprint of about 100 meters by 50 meters at this point. We know that's going to get bigger with additional drilling. That was just from the releasing the first eight drill holes. So we couldn't be more excited now, because we knew we had good mineralization. We'd already drilled in the first phases of drilling. We stepped out now into the central part, and it's just continuing. It's really the same story is repeating itself, and it's demonstrating its upside potential. I've thrown in some nice rock pictures here. These are some of the mineralized intervals from Paloma East. It's important to point out that our primary copper mineral is chalcopyrite. It's the mineral that supplies most of the world's copper, comes in that form, and it's metallurgically it's the easiest, one of the easiest sulfide phases to deal with in terms of sulfide concentrate and recovery of copper. More examples from Paloma West. Again, mentioned this is the really high grade breccia body, and you can see why. I mean, all that gold color metallic mineral there is chalcopyrite. Just some very impressive styles of mineralization, and you'll notice that this is similar to the original core photos I showed. We have both the matrix cemented sulfide breccia, and we also have the late copper replacement process, replacing the class in the breccia. So the fact that we're seeing both styles of mineralization, we see that at Paloma East, we see it at Paloma West, and we also see it at Huancarama, tells us that we really have a very robust system. Just to go back to this map, I'll talk now about the Huancarama breccia complex. It's only 300 meters to the south of Paloma. The top part, the elevation at Huancarama here is 400 meters above the deepest breccias intercepted at Paloma. So if you just, by analogy, assume that you can at least go as deep as we've gone at Paloma, there's 400 meters to work with right there. And as I mentioned, we've never seen the bottom of a breccia system yet, so we expect that depth will continue to get deeper as well. We initially were really excited about Huancarama just because of its footprint. It's 5 breccias in a very compact area. It's about 200 meters across, so that's the biggest expanse of mineralized breccia on the property in terms of multiple breccia bodies. There's an old historic working here that was open. We've been able to get in there and channel sample it and map the geology and confirm a breccia, a continuous breccia zone in there of about 55 meters in extent. No doubt the extension of this H1 breccia that sits over here. But that's all the surface gold expression, very strong multi-gram gold and rock samples and channel samples right at surface. This is what it looks like from a drone image. On the right is H1. That's the big breccia body I was talking about. There's a very conspicuous collapse zone that sits between H1 and H2, and it was really drilling from H2 back towards H1 beneath this collapse zone that showed us the potential on the eastern half. We haven't drilled on this western half yet, other than just a couple of holes that ran long on drilling H2. But you can see the footprint of the breccia here in this plan view on the left. It's about 100 meters by 50 meters. The 2 holes, 159 and 160, were the ones that connected breccia continuously all the way across, giving us that footprint. We've got the underground added here that also gives us some additional control on the extent of the breccia. And this is the footprint after just 8 drill holes in the underground working. So we know that that's going to get bigger. We haven't, as I mentioned, we haven't really explored the western half yet. We'll be doing that soon. This is what the cross section looks like. The model just based on 8 drill holes in the underground working. The 2 surface outcropping breccias shown here. The collapse zone in between, and this is open in here now. We're doing some drilling in this zone here. We think we'll be able to fill in this gap, and then of course it's still open at depth. more rocks, very similar to the Paloma rocks that I showed previously. All the black in these core photos is the tourmaline. That is an integral part of the formation of these breccia pipes in the first place. And what's really impressive here is we see these slugs of massive sulfide, massive chalcopyrite, with other with other minerals in there, very, very high grade zones. We see this very interesting botryoidal pyrite in both Paloma deeper in Paloma and also at Huancarama. We're still working on understanding what that texture is. It's a very unique texture and what that means for the project. I've talked about the late stage copper replacement. We see that inside the breccia pipes, but we also see that outside the breccia pipes. And you can see the two core boxes at the bottom. These are in between the two breccia pipes at breccia 1, the main zone that comes to surface, and the blind pipe that we discovered. This is in pre-mineral intrusive rock. It's been completely replaced. On the right, there's massive sulfide of chalcopyrite replacing the intrusive rock. On the left, you can still see the intrusive textures in the rock. It's not a breccia. So if we're seeing that kind of mineralization outside the breccia pipes and we're focusing almost entirely inside the breccia pipes, you can see again why we get really excited about the upside potential at Soledad. We have no idea how much of this mineralization outside the breccia pipes might exist. We do see some interesting veins in the district, and this is, some of the more controversial aspects about Soledad and whether or not there's a porphyry sitting underneath these tourmaline breccia pipes. Porphyry geologists will look at these veins and say, yeah, these look like veins that I've seen in my career associated with porphyries, but we don't really know yet. And again, it's not our focus. We make note of these things. There's molybdenite there. We've dated the molybdenite. We have a very good understanding of the age and timing of mineralization at Soledad, and that gives us a great understanding when we look regionally at the Cordillera Negra, and that's all part of the initiative that we have to understand the ore deposit to the point that it helps us find more mineralization. It really is a scientific endeavor at the end of the day in terms of how you approach the exploration. The mining methods have been looked at by a number of different mining engineers, including Goldfields brought in their mining engineer to take a look at this, and they all basically come up with the same thing. These are very straightforward underground mining opportunities with sub-level mining, and just using conventional mining techniques. There's nothing tricky here. There's great access. The spacing between the breccia pipes is optimal. You can develop infrastructure to connect multiple pipes. You can mine multiple pipes at the same time, and you can mine multiple levels within a breccia pipe at the same time. So it gives you lots of optionality on production rates, on blending ores. The mineralization we've seen at Paloma East and West and at Huancarama recently, the really expansive extent of mineralization starting right at surface, that's when we can start thinking about, well, conceptually, maybe bulk mining, maybe open pit mining would fit here. And so we've been having those conversations with our team and with Goldfields. They're excited about that potential too, because again, it just adds another option to the project. Will underground mining be featured if this turns into a mine? No doubt, because of the vertically extensive nature of these breccia pipes. But is it possible that open pit mining might be able to be used as starter pits in some of the breccia pipes? Well, that's a possibility as well, and that's something that we'll be looking at. So just to wrap this up, John, for you, so we can go on to the questions, but Soledad and Chakana really provides a unique opportunity. You're not just getting exposure to copper, you're getting exposure to precious metals at the same time. And we'll continue to aggressively explore this project. There's so much more to go. We obviously, our goal this year is to get a resource estimate out that's really critical for the project. We've got 3 new discoveries. We want those discoveries to be included in that resource. That'll also include breccias 1, 5, and 6. They've already been drilled to the point that can be included in a resource estimate. We've got breccia 7 that needs to be drilled out. So there's still a lot more drilling to do. and we plan to do that this year. But we will have a resource out in 2021, and it'll be the first just indication of what the potential of the project is. Because as I mentioned, we can still go deeper on the known breccia pipes. We can find new breccia pipes, and there's multiple different ways of achieving the upside potential that I mentioned on the project. As long as we stay aggressive with the drilling, I think we'll be able to bring a lot more of that to the shareholders. I'll stop there, John, and we can move on to questions. Thank you very much.
David, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, John.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. I know it sometimes takes a second for my camera and mic to come back in. So yeah, there are a number of questions that came in. We'll start with Mark Reichman, analyst at Noble Capital Markets. His first question, with respect to yesterday's drilling results, could you elaborate on the areas with bulk mining potential?
Yeah, right now, if you go back to that map that shows it showed the plan map of Huancarama and in the cross section, the area of the footprint of the breccia where we've got it defined now 100 meters by 50 meters. That would be the area right now. But then the whole western half is not, we haven't explored that yet. I mean, ideally, if we can expand that breccia off to the west, and you'll even have a larger footprint of breccia to deal with. But right now, we're looking at that footprint. And again, that footprint's only based on 8 drill holes. So we have a long way to go. But, obviously, when you start seeing a footprint like that, starting at surface, that you've got, that's it right there. So that would be, the area of interest. And then, trying to expand it off to the west is the obvious direction to go. We do have, it's really interesting because we have Paloma East and West is just 300 meters to the north. It's not that far off of the view of this map. And we have several targets in between those two that we haven't drill tested yet. Again, I mentioned we have 92 targets on the property, and they're all ranked and prioritized. The most obvious things are things like Huancarama, multiple breccias, mineralized sitting at surface. Those are the really obvious targets for us to go after. But in between these really obvious targets, we often have all these other more subtle targets. They might be alteration with interesting geochemistry, but no breccia exposed at surface, or a geophysical anomaly to go with it, that type of thing. And all of those targets need to be tested. It's this is a program, as I mentioned, we're just scratching the surface, and that's what I mean by that.
Okay. Mark's also asking, what are your plans for Compañero and the Barrick option?
Yeah, so we're in the process of permitting that south area, and we intentionally separated the permitting because it's a much more expansive area. The fact that we were able to drill in the blue area at the very beginning, starting back in 2017, was the fact that we were working on an existing permit, and in order to drill in the central area, we modified the boundary of that to give us access. That's the final initiation of activities that was cleared in July of this year to allow us to drill there, and now we're in the process of modifying and expanding that to the south. So we're probably about a year and a half away from the permitting access to get on the south side. We'll get to it as soon as we can. We have multiple people. We have 2 teams working on it, our internal team and an external contractor that's come in and helped us with the permitting. That's been with us from day one on the project. So they're making great progress. But the one thing I'd have to say about Peru is that the regulatory environment, while it's very comprehensive, it does tend to be a little bit slow, especially with respect to permitting. And we've experienced that on this project. We're doing everything we can to expedite that. But in the meantime, we've still got all of these targets on the central and north half of the project to continue to explore. So while we're advancing the permitting, we'll be working on those things. The initial resource will be based in the north area, and eventually we'll get down to that south area.
Okay. Third question from Mark. Based on the breccia pipes that have been drilled, which ones will be the basis for the maiden resource estimate?
Well, right now I'd have to say 1, 5, and 6, and Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancarama. and most likely breccia 7. We've got 4 holes in breccia 7. It's mineralized. Kind of the strategy we take with we start off with what we call scout drilling. We want to go out and put, anywhere from 6 to 12 holes into a target, and answer the 3 questions. Is it mineralized? Do we have indications of high grade? Because we know if we find some high grade, we can chase it at depth. And kind of what's the general geometry? Does it look like it's the geometry that we understand that potentially could be generate some tons and be a mineable geometry? And with breccia 7, we drilled 4 holes. Good grades, particularly in silver. It's very silver rich in that top. We think we're at the very top part of the pipe, and as we go deeper, it'll transition and zone into more copper dominant mineralization. But we need to go back and do that one. So if we put them all in, it would be 7. Right now, I definitely think it'll be 6, and why not go do some additional drilling on 7 and bring it in as well.
Okay. Next question is from Jason. Did any of the Huancarama drill results surprise you at all? Grade, location of mineralization, etc.
Well, our expectations are pretty high. If I had to step back and say, okay, we're going to go test 3 new targets, are we going to announce 3 new discoveries? I would say, the chances of that, you can never be 100% or 1,000% if you use baseball numbers in exploration. At some point, you're going to test targets and they're not going to be there. Am I surprised? No, I don't think so. I mean, because of what we had to work with to start with. We always thought that all of these breccia, you can see the breccia bodies at surface are the dashed dotted black lines. Okay, that's where the surface expression of breccia is. And you can see between H1 and H2, H1 is a large polygon and H2 is a really small one. But look at all the breccia that sits in between those. Okay, and we had hoped that the breccias at Huancarama would all coalesce into one breccia at depth. Perhaps it's one very, very large breccia pipe, or perhaps they're fingers like on your hand, and as you go down the fingers, they eventually coalesce into a much larger body at depth. And so far, breccia 1 and breccia 2 at Huancarama, H1 and H2 are part of one big breccia system. So I'm not surprised by it, but I'm certainly I'm elated by it. That's for sure. I mean, it was really, when we drilled those 2 holes, I mean, it was super exciting to say, okay, yeah, this is what we thought this is what we had hoped would happen, and this is what is happening. And notice too, the best drill hole in terms of grade sits beneath that collapse zone. So we know that collapse zone is kind of a central feature between the outer breccia pipes H1 and H2. And now it's a question of which way does that trend? Does it trend to the north, to the northeast, to the southwest, or to the west? And that's where the drilling, the continual drilling of the Huancarama area is going to tell us the answer to that.
Okay. Thanks, David. Another question from Jason on the capital side of things. You've mentioned the drill program is fully funded. Is the subsequent maiden resource estimate also funded with current cash in the treasury?
Yeah, we've got enough to get to finish the 15,000 meters, which we've got about 8,700 or so, 8,600 meters to go. We're fully funded for that, and we're fully funded to get a resource estimate out based on that. We would like to add additional drill rigs to the project. I mean, we've got the permit now, so we can run as fast as we can. So adding a second drill rig makes sense, and potentially even adding a third drill rig at some point. So that's where we're starting to talk about internally, financing and what we can do with additional capital on top of that. I mean, we've already made 3 new discoveries in 6 months to go with the 4 that we had already made. So there's a lot that needs to be done here in addition to the resource estimate, ramping up the metallurgical work. Underground permitting is going to be another key part of our future here, because as I mentioned, you can expand the resources by going underground and just continuing the depth extent exploration of something you've already found, and that's a no-brainer approach, right? Why wouldn't you do that? And there's lots of advantage to going underground too. You can do bulk sampling. You can do lots of engineering studies that'll be part of pre-feasibility type of studies. You can bring that work forward, but then we can also stay really aggressive on surface target testing as well. So yeah, I mean, future financing is going to benefit us. There's no doubt about it. But we still have, I think we have 3.4 in the bank right now.
Well, David, I'll ask a follow-up question to that. Would you be looking to raise capital before the resource estimate is out, or would you be waiting after?
Well, we're talking about that. That's certainly a possibility. I mean, I think it depends on the market. It depends on how things are looking. We're open-minded right now. My focus right now is to keep the drills turning and expand the discovery we've already made. And the board is looking at that question. And like I said, we're open-minded. We're going to do what's best for advancing the project as quickly as we can.
Okay. Another question from Jason. Do you have an idea around the approximate size of the combined breccia body where H1 and H2 merge underground? Also, how much deeper do you expect to drill at Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancarama once your scout drilling is completed with respect to the infill definition drilling for the resource estimate?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. The volume just based on 8 drill holes and that underground working. I mean, it's that's why I've given the dimensions at 100 by 50. We've got one deeper hole that goes down the breccia. And, as I mentioned, we're trying to get a feel for the geometry, but that doesn't mean that we've drilled it as deep as we can or that geometry is not going to change as we continue to drill. So there's still quite a bit of exploration drilling that gets done when we go back to do infill drilling. It's not just come in and put a grid pattern and just grid drill it. We still have to drill across the breccia pipes. We have to drill deeper holes to kind of see which way the breccia is extending at depth. And usually they're vertical and they're getting bigger like this, but we have seen, like where breccia 5, when it hit this, there's an unconformity. There's a really important geologic unconformity where there's younger rocks sitting on much older rocks, and oftentimes that unconformity surface causes a change in the nature of the mineralization or the nature of the geometry. And we've seen breccia 5, which was kind of plunging a little bit to the east. It hit that unconformity, it did a 90-degree turn and started plunging to the north. And right at that juncture, we started noticing some very, very high copper grades in there. So it's a really important feature. But it's only with persistent drilling do you sort some of those things out. So we will no doubt these shapes will change and our understanding will change as we continue to drill. We've got enough drilled so far at Paloma East, Paloma West, and I'd say even at Huancarama, that we can start thinking about and planning an infill drill program. But no doubt we'll send down some deeper holes. We'll go out and test a target that's sitting off on the edge that, it's got surface expression, but we hadn't drilled beneath it yet. We'll continue to do that kind of work too. So, you can expect to see that we'll be expanding the discoveries and learning and sharing that information with the market as we develop our understanding.
Okay. Next question's from Victor. You should find the major structure to control the pipes, find the biggest, need to prioritize targets. Does Goldfields provide some technical input?
Well, Goldfields provides abundant technical input. I mean, they have been a great partner for us because they give us this technical depth that junior companies rarely have, or we have to go out and find consultants to do it and that type of thing. So they brought mining engineers, resource geology, metallurgists, targeting kind of regional. Just good exploration targeting people. They brought every resource that we've asked for. Geophysics. So that's been a great benefit to the project. As a virtue of that relationship. Structure is important. You know, there's different types of structure here. One type of structure is we have these pre-mineral intrusions. They also have kind of the same geometry as the breccia pipes. They're kind of vertically oriented intrusive bodies, and they penetrate this relatively flat-lying stratigraphy that we have in here. And so those pre-breccia intrusions have already breached that stratigraphy. And so what we see very often is the breccia pipes have come up along the margins of those intrusions, and they're exploiting that weakness in the stratigraphy that's already been breached by these intrusive bodies. So that's one form of structure. We also have faults and structures that are more traditional when people think about structural control on these types of things. But you have to keep in mind these breccia pipes formed by an unbelievable catastrophic explosion at depth above a magma chamber that reached the point where the overlying rock could no longer contain the immense amount of pressure built up by all the volatiles. So these things exploded, and literally these breccia bodies were formed instantaneously. They actually created openings underneath ground, and the fragments fell back in to an open cavity, and then the hydrothermal fluids came into those breccia columns. So these breccia bodies kind of went where they wanted to. They're not really passive systems that are seeking structural control and that type of thing. If there was structure there, no doubt it exploited it. But it's not as simple as going out and mapping all the faults and then you drill along the faults to find the breccias.
Okay. There's no further questions right now. We can wait a couple minutes to see if anything comes in. Maybe in the meantime, I'll ask you, David, how close did you, it's maybe hole 154 was the closest to that underground adit. How far away from that adit was that hole, and did you find any grades near that adit if you were close?
Well, we've sampled that adit underground. So we've gone in and we do cut channel samples. We actually take a portable saw and we cut channels into the outcrop, and we sample continuous channel sample all the way across that adit. We even outside the breccia, we've done that. It's basically like a drill hole, if you will. It's the same concept, and we've been able to sample it the same. In terms of how close we came, I can't give you the exact number, but probably 5 or 6 meters. So that adit runs right through the breccia body. And you can see all the red. The green is the volcanic rock, and the red is the breccia. So we have extensive amount of breccia underneath it, and it's all mineralized at varying grades. It doesn't all run half a gram gold and 1% copper or even 0.5 copper. It is variable, but what's really encouraging is when you get 125 or 130 meters of continuous mineralization that bulks out at the kind of grades that we've got. I mean, that's a really encouraging start to a new discovery. And obviously we need to do a lot more drilling here, but I couldn't have been more excited about the initial results in the first 8 holes at Huancarama. It absolutely met and exceeded my expectations. I can't wait for us to continue drilling out to the west, and I can't wait for the infill drilling programs, because we know we always get nice surprises when we do that too. So,
okay. And one last question came in here from Tom, and it's actually a question I had as well. Can you discuss where the additional completed drill holes have been placed that are currently awaiting assay?
Yeah, they're all around, in and around that footprint of the on the east side. They're all around. We drilled one hole out underneath H4. We were just getting started on that, and then we knew the season was going to wrap up, and we decided, the drill company, AK Drilling and Chakana, came together and decided to let the guys take a nice break over. They took a break from the 23rd of December until January 4th. It was a well-deserved break. I mean, when you think about what these guys have done, And during a pandemic, to get out there and pull off 6,000 meters of drilling, the production has been phenomenal. I mean, our lab is ALS has done a great job with the turnaround time. We've averaged 15 days since August through the last batch of samples that were published. Just really outstanding. I want to take the opportunity to express my appreciation for our contractors and our employees and the local communities that have helped us and given us people to help with the project and that type of thing. And we've tried to do everything we can to help them, and donations of medical supplies and cleaning supplies and food, and that type of thing. So it's been a very, very beneficial relationship with the community on both sides. But we've just got one drill hole out on the west side, and we need to go back there because there's obviously there's reason to go back there.
Okay, so how many holes are awaiting assay?
Well, we just finished hole 15 in Huancarama, and we published 8, so 7.
7 left. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom had a follow-up question there. How many holes awaiting assay?
Yeah, seven more, and then the drill's still turning, right? So I mean, every time they finish a drill hole, generally every 3 days they're onto another hole. So
okay. All right. Well, I think that's it for the questions, and that takes us to about an hour. So I guess we'll cut it off here. David, thank you again for your time giving the presentation and the Q&A. At the end of the webinar, when it ends, there will be a survey. If you'd like David or Joanne from Chakana to contact you, there is a question there asking if you'd like to be contacted. Simply answer yes, and they will arrange to get in touch with you based on the contact information you provided when you registered. So any final words that you wanted to share, David, before we ended it?
Just really looking forward to coming back on with you, John, and telling the story. I mean, obviously, we're going to have more results coming out on a regular basis. We plan to just continue drilling. We've got lots of drilling to do. So I'm excited for 2021. To see this project unfold and advance the discoveries we've already made. So please stay tuned, and let's get back on the air as soon as we can.
Sounds good. Well, nice start to the year. Good way to start the year with some nice intercepts report. So we'll look for that to continue. So thanks again, David. And thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, for your questions, for your participation. Some new faces, some old faces. Always nice to see you. Until next time, be well, stay safe, and take care.
Thank you, John.